Hello and welcome to Misty and Me with Freedom. Let me introduce you to Misty, my 4-year-old Labrador. Misty and I moved aboard Freedom, our widebeam boat here at Mersey Marina, back in March 2020, and together we began a new chapter in our lives. Misty is more than my dog. She's my best friend, companion and security officer. Thank you for joining us on this boat life journey. We hope you enjoy the following video, and please can we ask you to subscribe and tick that notification bell. Thank you. Okay, so what I'm going to do today, there's been a lot on the news about young mums who are unable to feed the families during lockdown, and it got me thinking about how economical it can be to cook. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to make a chicken casserole. And this chicken casserole, what I'm going to do is going to cost less than £3, and some of it is using up ingredients in the fridge, but I've costed it out as accurately as I can, and it's actually £2.98 it comes to. And that's for allowing, such as you buy a whole swede, I'm using a quarter of a swede, which is 10p. Same with the mushrooms, obviously carrots, onions, etc. I'm using chicken thigh. Chicken thigh is a lot cheaper to buy than chicken breast. It takes a few more minutes just to trim it because there is fat left on the leg. You just need to trim that off, and it does casserole beautifully because it likes a long slow cook. So what I had in the fridge, I had some mushrooms, I had an onion, a few carrots, a parsnip, a potato and some swede. And you can put whatever you like into a casserole stroke stew. There's no hard and fast rules. These sort of dishes go back to literally medieval times, and it was a case of using up whatever was available, because obviously they didn't have fridges in them days, plus bulking up the meals, hence potato and swede, etc., because it was usually the food of the workers. What you find is the cheaper the cut, the longer it needs to be cooked. And yes, you can use breast of chicken in a chicken casserole, but to be fair, you're far better off using a cheaper cut if you're going to leave it to cook over a long, slow process. So I'm going to prepare these veggies that's in front of you, and then we'll proceed with the actual cooking. So come back to me when it's all chopped and ready. So that's everything roughly chopped. It doesn't need to be very fine because it's going to be a long, slow cooking process. And if you cook it too small, then it's just going to go into mush. And you want to keep some consistency in the casserole. So all we need to do now is let's get cooking. Okay, large saucepan. I'm going to actually use a wok simply because it's got the depth and it gives me plenty of cooking surface. So we'll get some heat on. And we're going to gently fry off the chicken. We don't want it to be too brown and hard, it's just to seal it all. Then we'll remove the chicken into a bowl and we'll then continue to fry off the vegetables, just again to soften them, release some of the flavours into the pan. We'll then add the chicken back in, and at that point we do add a little bit of flour just to take up the oil that's already in the pan, otherwise you're going to end up with a very greasy casserole. And then we're going to add about 700 mils of chicken stock. Now that's made up using the concentrated stock pots. Never used them before, so I thought we'd give that a whirl as well, and that's also including in this costing of under £3. Now looking at the amount of ingredients it's created from what I had in the fridge, I would happily say that this would feed, well, it would feed me at least 3 meals, and chances are they'll be sufficient for mum and dad and 2 kiddies. So if you can feed a family of 4 for £2.98 with a very filling kind of nutritional meal, I don't think that's too bad. So let's get it sorted. In with the chicken. There's quite a lot of it. It's just a case now of letting it cook itself out. Add a little bit of seasoning at this point, but like with all cooking, don't get carried away with your seasoning, because you can always put it in, add at the end, but obviously you can't take it out. And again, with casseroles, it's like making a curry. It's the English version of a curry, to be fair. Don't be frightened of experimenting, you know. You can put tin tomatoes in. I'm still using tomato paste. I'm not using either today because I just don't want to. The same with the vegetables that you put in. Any root vegetable is ideal to go into a casserole because it's going to be a nice slow cook process. I think the fear is of people trying to stick, as I've always said, to the exact recipe, and that's not what cooking's about. It's about experimentation, creating something that you like, that your family like and enjoy, and not only is it going to taste great, it's going to come in on a sensible budget, and you're not going to struggle to feed your family. If you were to use cheaper cuts of meat, then you'll always find you can make very economical dishes. I think we're losing the art in this country and assume that, again, it's got to be the best cut of beef, it's got to be the best cut of chicken, lamb, pork, etc. And it really doesn't. It really doesn't. Generations have grown up using the cheaper cuts, and the butchers will always tell you that more often than not the cheaper cuts hold most of the flavour. Right, this is getting a nice seal to it now. As you can see, most of it is sealed. So come back to me in a few minutes and I'll just finish this off, and then we'll put the vegetables through. Okay, that's the chicken taken out and placed into a side dish for now. I just want to get on with the vegetables. Some people prefer to cook individually, so they do the onions first. But to be fair, there's no major reason to do that, because all we're going to do is soften these veggies. We're not going to completely cook them, because that will take place when we actually place it all into the slow cooker, which I've never used before either, so it's a learning curve. We're just going to break the hardness of these down a little bit before we put the mushroom in, and then, as I said before, we'll place the chicken back in. Then we'll put the flour in just to take off any of the grease, and then we'll add the stock. The thing is with the casserole is you can turn it into any kind of dish. I mean, if you want to put red wine in, you can put white wine in if you wish, you know, and add a wine flavour to it, then feel free to do that. I've known people prefer to put a beer or a cider. This is having no alcohol at all, but that option's there. The same as using fresh herbs. Now, if I was at the marina where Lisa is, in a life full of meaning, I'd be on top of her boat now, pinching a bit of a herb garden to go in this. But unfortunately, I'm not, so we're not going to do that. I don't think she'd be very pleased if I did. Right, I'm just going to sweat these off, as it's called sweating, and I'll bring you back when these are ready to have the mushrooms added. Okay, these have had about 5 minutes, so we can now add the mushroom, and as you can see, we're already bulking up the dish. So feeding 4 people I don't think would be a problem. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to just put a little drop of stock in the pan. Pop the lid on. And this is actually just going to help steam and soften the vegetables without giving them too much colour, because we're not looking to brown them excessively, and putting the lid on it just speeds up the process a little bit, and the moisture obviously from the stock does help. Now the vegetables in here now have been in about another 3 or 4 minutes, and you can see the mushrooms are now cooked through. Now that little bit of liquor that's in there from the stock will eventually evaporate out. At this point we're going to put the chicken back in, and I'm just going to drain off the potatoes because they've been in fresh water, and I'm going to pop the potatoes in as well. There we go. And there is your base for a casserole. We're just now going to wait for the stock just to steam off, make sure we haven't got any excess oil in there. If we haven't, then we won't bother putting the flour in, and if we have, then obviously we'll just put a sprinkle in, and then we have to cook it out like you would a basic roux, otherwise your casserole will become floury and lumpy. And then we'll add the stock and we'll get it in the slow cooker. Now it's going to be thin, because obviously we're not putting any thickening agents in this at the moment. The reason for that is we've got potato, which is going to break down and become a thickening agent, as will the swede, as will some of the parsnip. So these naturally will give the stock the thickness that we need without us having to add anything else into the mix. So we're just going to give this another 2 or 3 minutes, and then we'll pop the stock in once we've made sure there's no excess oil. Now I did mention earlier that we could put some herbs in there, and I've just been in the cupboard and found an assortment of dried herbs, and I'm just going to use a sprinkle, and this is lemon herb, and then it's also got in here peri peri. Now the whole point of cooking is experiment. You don't have to put loads in, just put a little bit in, and I think that'll do. So we'll just mix that in with the rest. Oh, it smells nice. That definitely smells nice. Don't want to over season anything. I don't think we're going to have any issues with excessive oil. So we're going to put the stock in. As I say, this is a concentrated chicken stock. Never used this before either, so it's all quite new to me. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to let this simmer, as it's going to do now. You can just see it slowly bubbling. For about 5 more minutes while we have a coffee. And what that will do, any oils, if there is any excessive oil that I've missed, will come to the top. And then one of the things you're trained as a chef, if you do get any grease on the top, all you do is turn the pan off, let it settle, and then just lay a sheet of paper towel on the top, and the grease will soak into the paper towel, but the rest of it doesn't. And then you can just lift it away. Soon then try and spoon it off, which would be a mammoth task when you've got a pan the size of this that's got all these beautiful ingredients sizzling away in there. So I'm going to have a coffee. This is going to simmer. And then we've almost made our casserole. It's then going to go into the slow cooker, and I'm going to leave it in there for as long as it needs, 3 or 4 hours. I'm not in no rush, and hopefully we'll end up with a very beautiful tasting meal for my tea tonight. Okay, so this has had about five more minutes with the lid on. There's no excessive grease, so all that's left to do now to get all this loveliness into the slow cooker, and then just leave it to cook itself at a nice steady pace, and hopefully it'll thicken up on its own. If this was smell-o-vision, I guarantee you'd all be salivating right now. It smells absolutely gorgeous. I'm not just saying that, it really does. And there you have a very easy to make, it's not a difficult dish, and a nice big pot of chicken casserole for less than £3. Just going to pop that in the slow cooker and leave it to do its thing. Okay, here we have an absolutely gorgeous bowl of chicken casserole, and I prefer mine just with crusty bread. What more could you want on a winter's day than that? And for less than £1 a portion, that has got to be fantastic value for money. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. As I said before in all my videos, these are not tutorials, this is just how I do things, and I hope it inspires you to open the fridge, see what you can find, and create some very lovely dishes for very little money. Thank you for watching.